Hey, Algebra 2 Trig, we're going to do a new chapter. We're starting with 8.1, Solving Systems of Equations. Go ahead and write down your essential question. It is, what is a system of equations, and how do I solve for it? And then before we start, I need you to write down, for substitution, there are very specific steps. So go ahead and write those down. Okay? And then, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so a system of equations is pretty much just two equations that relate to each other. Okay, so the first example is I'm going to solve 2x minus y plus 2 equals 0 and 4x plus y minus 5 equals 0. And I'm going to solve it by substitution, by the substitution method. Okay, so if I look at this, the first thing we have to do is we have to solve one equation for the other, one equation for a variable that I can plug into the other equation. So if you look here, if I look at the top equation, if I add y to both sides, then I'll have a y equals, and then I can since I have a y here, I can plug in everything I have. So I'm going to solve this first one. I'm going to solve it for y. So 2x minus y plus 2 equals 0. I'm going to add y to both sides. And then I'll have 2x plus 2 equals y. Okay, so now I know y is the same thing as 2x plus 2. So every time I see y, I should be able to plug it in. Okay. Something to note, do not plug it into the original equation that you just solved for y. If I take this and I plug it back in, then I will actually get 0 equals 0, which makes sense because it's the same exact line. So do not plug it into the other equation. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to take this 2x plus 2, and I'm going to plug it in every time I see y in the other equation. So here's the other equation, there's y. So I'm going to plug it in. So let's go ahead and plug in. So 4x plus, and instead of y, I'm going to write 2x plus 2. 2x plus 2 minus 5 equals 0. So if you notice now, I only have one variable, and it's very easy to solve for one variable. Whereas back then, back in the original equations, I had two variables, and it's possible to solve for two variables. Okay, so I'm going to combine like terms. 6x minus 3 equals 0. I'm going to add 3 to both sides. 6x equals 3. Then I'm going to divide by 6 because I want the x all by itself. So x is 1/2. Okay. Since it's a system of equations, I also need to find the y value. So I'm going to take this 1/2 and I'm going to plug it back into any of these two, either of these two equations, and I'm going to find y. So that's the next step. I'm going to plug in, so let's do the top equation. So it'll be 2 times x, and I know x is 1/2, then minus y plus 2 equals 0. Okay, so to solve, I'm going to add y to both sides, and I'll have 2 times 1/2 plus 2, so 2 times 1/2 is 1, plus 2 is 3, so 3 equals y. Okay, so now I have an x and a y, and that will actually be your answer. It'll be a point, 1/2, comma, 3. And I'll tell you what that point represents, okay, in example 2. Alright, example 2, we're going to actually solve another system of equations, but we're going to do it by graphing. So we're going to solve x squared plus y equals 1 and x plus y equals 2. I'm going to solve this by graphing, which is why I have graphing paper. Okay, so the first thing you should recognize is these are all equations we've seen before. So you should know roughly what it looks like. Well, I know the top has an x squared and it has a y, so I know this is going to be a parabola. And then this one is just a linear equation because I have x and y, and it's going to be a line. So the point is I want to figure out where the line crosses the parabola. Okay, so let's go ahead and graph. So I'm going to draw an xy axis. Okay, so in order to graph, I'm probably going to solve for y for this one. So if I solve for y, I'm going to minus x squared to both sides. So I'll have y equals negative x squared plus 1. Okay? If I solve for y here, I'm going to subtract x from both sides. So this will be y equals negative x plus 2. Okay, so I have a line and a parabola. You should know how to graph these. If you don't, go back to your old notes. But let's go ahead and graph the line. The line is going to have a y-intercept of 2 and a slope of negative 1. So a y-intercept of 2 and a slope of negative 1. So I'm going to go down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1, and down 1 over 1. And then I'm going to draw my line. And with graphing, you have to make sure you're doing it with graph paper so it's accurate. Because if you just ballpark it, it's not going to be the exact point. Okay? Alright, for this one, it's going to be a parabola. It has a negative in front, so I know it's going to be facing down. And then the plus 1, remember, that means I shifted it up 1. So I know my graph is going to be, it's going to be shifted up 1. And since the parabola is facing down, I'm going to go down 1 over 1. Down 1 over 1. Okay. And then my next point will be down right 2, down 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. If you don't know, you can plug in points. Okay. And then so if you look from here, I need to figure out where the parabola crosses the line. And if I'm looking correctly, it doesn't look like it crosses the line. So I'm actually going to write, the answer is going to be no solution. And if it crossed at a certain point, then it would be a point, which is why we came up with that point in the first example. The first example was 2 lines, and it crossed at this point. Well, since they don't cross at all, I'm going to write no solution. If it somehow ends up to be the same exact, let's say you were graphing 2 lines and it was the same exact line, then it would be infinite solution. If you have any questions, write it down on the left-hand side and we'll answer it tomorrow.